Okay, you should have this copy of your notes in front of you. I gave you a worksheet for your notes today because this table would be pretty hard to recreate by copying it down. So like I told you, 8.6 really is a review of everything from chapter 8. What I'd like you to do is start with copying down what I have copied in blue, and I need you to finish this. So pause the video and just go from memory. If your memory doesn't work, then go ahead and consult your notes. But this is a great review. So what you need to look at is the properties on the left and write an X in the spot if that particular figure has that characteristic. So for example, both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Parallelogram has that, a rectangle has that, a rhombus and a square has that. Kite, trapezoid, and isosceles trapezoid does not have those characteristics, so I don't have an X there. Now some of these can be a little bit tricky, so what I did was give you some numbers at the bottom to give you a little hint. So for example, that 4 means that there's 4 X's in that first column. In this next column, there should be 6 of them. The next column, there should be 7, and so on. So pause the video and take a few minutes and complete this table. After you're done, I do have my key posted, and check your work with my key so that you know if you got it correctly or not. If you did not, then you need to do a little bit more studying for the test. On the back side, always, sometimes, or never true. So again, I would like you to pause the video and I'd like you to look at 1 through 7 and try to do this just from your memory. If you need to look it up, that's fine, but let's see what you know so that you know what you need to study for your test. So the first one, diagonals of a trapezoid are congruent. This is sometimes true. They are congruent if it's an isosceles trapezoid. They are not congruent if it's not an isosceles trapezoid. Opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent. That's always. A rectangle is a parallelogram, which means opposite sides are always congruent. A square is a rectangle. That's an always because that's part of our definition. A square is a rhombus. Again, same reason. That's part of our notes from the other day. All angles of a parallelogram are congruent sometimes. So parallelogram can have all angles congruent, but not necessarily. It is true for rectangle and square because they're all 90. It is not true for a rhombus, so that's a sometimes. Opposite angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. That's never going to happen where the opposite angles are going to be the same measure. Diagonals of a parallelogram are perpendicular. Sometimes. It only works for a rhombus and a square. A rectangle does not have perpendicular diagonals. Okay, so going on to the most specific names. So we want to get as specific as possible. These are all obviously four-sided figures, so they are quadrilaterals. We have to decide if they're parallelograms, and then from there decide if it's rectangle, rhombus, square, or a kite or a trapezoid. So looking at the first one, I see that we have 90-degree diagonals. The diagonals are perpendicular, which means it could be a rhombus. It also could be a square. It cannot be a rectangle. So looking at the diagonals are bisecting each other, which means it's a parallelogram. I cannot say it's a square because a square would have to have 4 right angles. So this one is a rhombus. The next one, I see one pair of parallel lines. They show us that these two are 90 degrees, which is great, but we don't know anything over here. It looks like it could be a rectangle, but without knowing that these two are 90, I cannot call this a rectangle. All I see is one pair of parallel lines, so this one is just a trapezoid. And really, number 10 is not that different from number 9, it just looks different. So we have one pair of parallel lines. We know these are 90, but without knowing anything about these, I can't call this anything other than just a trapezoid. So both of those figures are a trapezoid. So again, here's my answers: rhombus, trapezoid, and trapezoid. So the next section, determine whether the statement is true or false. If it's true, tell you why, and if it's false, sketch a counterexample. The number of acute angles in a trapezoid is always either 1 or 2. Well, that's true, because if you look at a trapezoid, it could have an obtuse angle and acute angle, or Another idea, we would have 2 obtuse and 2 acute. So look at the two differences there. There's either 1 acute or 2 acute. Number 12, if the quadrilateral has exactly 1 pair of opposite angles that are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a kite. That's true, because that's part of our definitions also. Number 13, if a quadrilateral has a pair of opposite angles that are congruent, then the quadrilateral is not a trapezoid. This is true. If a quadrilateral has a pair of opposite angles congruent, then it's not a trapezoid, it would have to be a kite. Okay, I will have the homework posted. The homework is 8-6, which is technically review, and there's some review homework. Next time I see you, you will have your Chapter 8 test. Don't forget to check your key, or you know what, I'll do it this way. Check your answers with this table key. If you don't have them correct, pause the video and make them correct in your notes. This is a great study guide.